Football Unknown.
Before we start this episode off, I want to say thank you for coming to the podcast, man. It's a privilege to have you on. I think this will be a very special episode because I think we're gonna cover like a lot of key points of like how you were able to, stay headstrong throughout like all of those challenges you face, and I think it'll also be a good thing to talk about for like a lot of athletes who face the same situation. But before we start off, man, tell everyone about yourself, like your name, where you're from.
I'm Alex Fuentes. I'm from DeLeon Springs, Florida, and I play for Stetson University. But yeah, thank you for having me. I think it's really sick what you do here, bro. Kind of like get people to, tell their story of how we all ended up in the same place and just how there's so many different ways to like get to where we are right now.
Exactly. So first, how did it all start? Like, at what age did you fall in love with soccer?
Man, I didn't start playing soccer till I was like 10 years old, which is pretty late for
10,
people who play soccer and tend to like go on and do college stuff and stuff like that. So, I mean, I just kind of grew up playing in my backyard. It's kind of funny. Like, I wasn't really a big soccer fan. Like, I just like to have fun with my friends, and it just turned out that they were really big fans of soccer, and we just grew up playing in my backyard, and just one thing led to another. Eventually, I ended up playing club soccer at a club in Daytona, which is like a relatively like small club. And I didn't start playing there till I was like 11 or 12.
Wow.
So I didn't really start playing like club soccer till that age. And, we played, I think it was like D2 for like GCF, which like anybody who's like familiar with the area knows like what GCF is. And it's just your local league. And it was just so like such like low level soccer. It was just, that's just where we began playing. From there, I played a couple years there. I changed clubs to Stetson FA, which is another small club in the area. I switched teams just because they took it more serious, and they started looking at going to State Cup and these bigger tournaments. And by that time, I was about like 15. So it wasn't until 15 where I was playing like better soccer.
Yeah, better, more competitive soccer.
It just kind of ramped up out of nowhere. I started out, not knowing how to kick a ball.
For Stetson FA or the club before that.
Like when I first started playing soccer, it was just like playing in my backyard. I didn't even like using cleats. It's like we would play barefoot. It was just like the most like just street soccer. Just a bunch of kids just having fun playing soccer. What had happened is like once I started playing at Daytona, my dad was like, he always wanted us to play soccer, but he was just waiting for us to like finally start playing. And once we did, he loved it. He played soccer growing up too. I mean, he didn't play pro or anything like that, but he just loves the sport. Just loves the game. And so he would tell us, he's like, listen, like, if you guys want to be good, like, it's going to take hard work. And he kind of just instilled that in us from like day one. Like, if you guys want to be good, it doesn't happen overnight. You guys got to work hard. It's not going to come to you just like that. Like, you guys just got to put in work day in, day out. So it's funny because he works, he used to work from like 5 a.m. to like 5 p.m., right?
Man, what job?
Landscaping. So he was, putting in work every day. And every day, after he would come home from work, he'd set up these cone drills. And he'd make us, he'd train us for an hour. He would train me, and I have a younger brother.
At home?
Yeah.
In the backyard?
In the backyard.
Wow.
So I have a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. We both started playing soccer at the same exact time.
Wow.
He just started, he was just younger.
And
every afternoon, he would set up these cone drills. We would train for an hour. And then, it came to a point where, like, we don't want to do this. Like, we just want to have fun. And he's all right. That's fine with me. You guys just want to have fun. And then, we started playing competitively club soccer, and we noticed, people were better than us. They were faster. They were stronger. And he was
you were like introduced to the world of soccer, right?
Exactly.
So
it wasn't just me and my friends anymore.
What are some things that you picked up on, right? Coming just from playing soccer in your backyard to finally playing for a structured team.
It was just different because, like, obviously, like in our backyard, you're gonna want to dribble from goal to goal.
Exactly.
And then so like
Just hit
that
the
was a
ball
big
as hard as you
problem I
can.
had in club, was learning to let go of the ball, not to dribble from goal to goal.
Yep.
Which is like basic, but it was just like what we had grew up learning. But yeah, so like my dad, every weekend, he would like do lawn work around our house,
Okay.
like yard work. And he'd be like, for as long as I have to do yard work, he's like, in the mornings, like he would get up at 7 in the morning to do yard work. He'd be like, you guys have to train from the time I start to the time I finish.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, we were kids. We were like 10, 7, my brother was. And we're like, dude, we just want to have fun. Like, it's a Saturday morning. We just want to watch TV or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, it's either you guys train for as long as I do yard work, or you guys do yard work
with me. Yeah.
And we picked soccer easily.
Yeah.
So it was just like, just from like a young age, it's just like getting this like regimen of like hard work into us, like instilled. And I just feel like that's just kind of like a big emphasis of my game, like just a big part of who I am as a person as well. It's just like working hard,
right.
Grew up just playing for these local clubs. Never really I always said I wanted to go D1, just because that was my goal.
Yep.
I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I just knew
some way somehow.
Just knew some way or somehow I was gonna do it.
Yep.
But like if I think about it, now looking back, like I was really optimistic, being that I played at a small club that barely would make it into state cup.
Yeah.
But our Stetson coach, Alan Mandel, who's probably he still coaches there. Man, that guy dedicated a lot of time to us as well. In the summers, he would train us at 8 a.m. every morning for free.
Wow.
Just because he really like
he saw potential.
He saw potential, and he really wanted to dedicate time to us. And man, I look back now, and it's insane how much time he gave to us over the summer. Took that into high school.
What position did you start off playing?
I started out playing as center mid, and then kind of just branched out. At some teams I was center mid. For the most part, I was a forward in high school, and in Stetson FA, where I played from from the time I was 14 to the time I was 17.
You were still playing in the midfield?
Yeah, at Stetson, I played forward for basically the whole time I was there. High school, I played forward. 4 years I was there. And then, like, high school, too, it was just crazy because, like, not a lot of schools have what we had. But it was, like, we were a middle and high school together. We were fairly small school. Where
Deland High School, right?
No, Taylor Middle High School, which is in Pearson, which, it's basically, like, in the middle of nowhere. Like teams hated coming our way just because it's like so out of everybody's way.
Yeah.
Like I think our whole like high school class is probably the size of like say like a 5A's like senior class.
Man.
So like it's insane. Like everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
Just such a small school, but yet like it was crazy. Like we would compete with these like local schools who were like way bigger than us, like 3A, 5A, and we were always for the most part one of the best teams in the county. And it was just funny because like our school was known for being like that one small school that was literally a team full of just Mexicans. It was just a team full of Mexicans.
Yeah.
We had like one American every year. But it was just funny because like our majority of our school was Mexicans, but we had a team full of like 5'5", like small Mexicans just competing. Quick, small Mexicans. But what we lacked in size was like just like we had it like in heart, I guess. Like we
I agree with that.
It was just a team full of like grinders, just like hardworking, like just a team of like guys who just worked hard because like a lot of their families like would work and they would have to work on the side. So sometimes our practices and stuff like
it was just like, be just exhausted already.
But it was just it's just part of the life there.
And you played there for 4 years?
Yeah, I played for 4 years. Did fairly well. I junior year, it's funny because like I scored like 42 goals my junior year of high school, which is like a good amount, but I mean it was high school, whatever. But around that time, my junior year, we ended up going to a showcase in Georgia. I forget what it was called.
Yep.
Castle, I think it's called.
Castle, yeah. Castle, yeah.
So we went there. We played 3 games. It was freezing cold when we went, which I hate the cold.
Yeah.
But our coach told us there's gonna be scouts there. Potential for us to get looked at. So we went there, did what we could. We lost all 3 games. They were close.
Yeah.
But we went home, and that was it. It
was like your first exposure to like the bigger stage.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. We expected to win every game and stuff like that, but we got beat every game, and it was just like wow, there are some really good teams out here.
Yep.
And about a month later, I get an email from like JU. And they're just like, hey, like you're invited to our ID camp, and I didn't think too much of it because they sent it to everybody.
Yeah.
And then so I replied, I was like, yeah, I want to come out. And they're like, yeah, we saw you at Castle. We really want to see more of you. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually like a real chance.
And you were a junior at the time?
Yeah. So I was a junior at the time. And I go out there. I do fairly well. And they asked me to come back for another ID camp. Wow. And I was like, okay. But this one was like smaller. Well, at the time, I didn't really have money. I was, in high school. And, things were kind of tough at home. So I remember, barely scraping up the money. And I sent him an email. And I was just like, hey, 150 is a lot for me. And he's like, fine, we can do 75. Just try to make it out here. And I remember being able to scrape $75 up, which, isn't a lot.
Yeah, by the time, given the situation.
Yeah, right? Given the situation and stuff, and I was able to send it in. He's like, sweet, get here when you can. So I go. First day, we're there. I'm there with my dad. Like, everything's kind of new to my dad too. I do good the first day. Second day, they asked me to come back. We play against their team. Did fairly well. And then I was in contact with the assistant coach from then on, and he was just telling me, he's like, hey, we really liked what we saw. We want to stay in touch.
Wow.
So he just stayed in touch with me. He came out to a few games. He invited me later down the road. He invited me to like a junior day, which was kind of like a day where it's like an unofficial visit. I got a tour around the campus.
Yeah.
And basically that day he told me, he's like, hey, like, listen, like we're thinking about signing you. Come your first day of senior year, we'd like to sign you then and there.
Wow.
Just because right now we can't really sign you, but you can verbally commit. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Because like from where I'm from, there's like at that high school where I'm from, there's a lot of talent and a lot of good players. But it just seemed like it was such a small city, such a small town. Like no one really ever got the exposure they needed. Like, man, there's so much talent in that little town. It's crazy how much talent there is.
Wow.
But it's just the lack of exposure, the lack of funds, because a lot of like, I'll be honest, like we do come from a small city where everybody works hard, everybody's like making their money, but a lot of reason like some of these guys never really got the exposures because a lot of them weren't able to play club because they couldn't afford $400 say a season. And I struggle with that as well, but at Stetson they're really good about helping people, really understanding where people come from, and really saying if you're a good player, like we can help you out.
Wow.
If you really want to put in the work and be here, we can help you out, which was awesome because like that's what our team consisted of. Just a lot of hardworking kids who weren't paying as much, but they knew they had to bring it in like hard work. So then for me, I committed right then and there because I was like, man, like
you have a chance.
I have a chance. Let me take a bet on it. I was going to be the first like D1 player to come out of my town. Wow. Like ever.
In the beginning of your senior year. You still had your whole senior year to play.
Yeah. So this was like mid junior year.
Wow.
Like mid-season junior year.
Wow.
So I stuck with it, and I'm just like, my goal now was to work really hard. So whenever I did get there, just be ready, right? So that's where kind of, stuff didn't go as planned. Junior year, going into senior year that summer, I I was playing, at the local Sunday league, just having fun, just because, like, club season was over. Yep. I didn't know about UPSL. I didn't know about these more, like, organized soccer things.
Yeah, it's so Sunday league, you and your friends.
I needed soccer. I needed some games, so I played Sunday league. And, the day I just wasn't feeling right, but I went ahead and played anyways. I get a ball. I'm running down the line. I go to cut back. Field's not that great either. My foot gets stuck, and my knee kind of just, like, stayed in place. And my knee kind of just, like, I could just feel, like, something, like, pop in my knee. And I was like, I feel like I broke my knee. I feel like I broke my knee.
That's like the worst case. That's like the worst case scenario for you in your situation.
Yeah, so, like, I felt like I broke my knee.
Yeah.
I felt like, I was like, this is tough. I couldn't walk off the field. They had to carry me off the field.
Damn.
So eventually I get up, I'm walking, and, I just couldn't believe it was, I didn't want to believe it was anything. So I walk it off, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. About a month passes by, and I'm, like, trying to train and stuff. It just didn't feel right.
Did you go to the doctor after that?
I waited. Just because I waited a bit, just because I wasn't sure. I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
So then about a month passes by, and then I'm like, man, I got to see it. My athletic trainer was like, man, you got to see a doctor, because, like, I think it's your ACL. And I had no clue when ACL was either.
Yeah.
Like, I knew what an ACL was, but, like, I just wasn't aware of how long the recovery was.
Exactly. And you were still, like, able to walk and stuff?
Yeah, able to walk, able to, like, squat.
Wow.
I was able to, like, do a lot of things where I was like, it just didn't seem like it was that bad.
Yeah.
So then, I see a couple doctors. They tell me, yeah, you've torn your ACL completely. Your meniscus is partially torn. He's like, but we can get away with just doing surgery on your ACL. And I was just like, do I really need it, though? Like, I can walk fine. I can run fine. They're like, well, if you plan to keep moving, like, the way you move, the way you want to keep playing, like, I recommend it. I was like, okay, well, if I have to get it done, I'll get it done. And, I ended up getting surgery, and it took a long time to get surgery. I didn't get it till August, and it happened late May.
Oh.
So,
man.
So yeah, I get surgery, and it's about when school started, my senior year. I give the assistant coach a call from JU. Hey, I had an injury. I just wanted to let you know. He's like, oh, that's fine. Like, what is it? What happened? I'm like, oh, I tore my ACL. And he's like, oh, that's kind of serious. He's like, that's a tough one. He's like, let me talk to the coaching staff, and we'll stay in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my surgery, and then I kept in contact with him, just like, I would send him emails. Hey, I'm doing rehab. I'm doing well. I'm working to get back. And then come December, it was about 4 or 5 months post-surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I was just like, hey, I'm feeling better. I'm thinking about getting cleared in February. Come August, when I would come in for you guys, like, I'll be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hear back from him. Then, like, a week or two passed by. I call him. He just wouldn't get back to me. I finally get in contact with him. It was like a night before we were gonna play, like, one of our high school games, and I was just like, hey, like, how you doing? Like, he's like, oh, sorry, I haven't been able to get in contact with you, but I just want you to know that we've moved on. We're no longer interested. And I was just like, and it just hit me. I was just like,
wow.
I was just like, so that's it. Like, that's it. And he's like, well, there's this thing called walk on if you want to walk on, but, like, we can't guarantee you a spot on the team. And I was just like, wow. I was like my heart sunk right then and there. I was just like, man. I was like, that's it.
It was junior senior year, right?
Yeah.
Towards the ending.
Yeah.
The ending of your senior year.
Yeah. This was mid senior year when I got that call.
Yep.
So it's like, what do I do?
Wow.
Now?
Like, you were banking on that, working on the rehab.
Yeah.
You're gonna make it in time.
Yeah. So
what happened, man? What was the next step after that?
I was pretty convinced that I was depressed. Like, I was in depression.
Bro.
Like, because I was like, wow, like, something I had worked for all my life, and just like that, it disappeared. I mean, I was expecting something, but not that. I was really angry. I was really, frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know how I'm gonna figure it out, but I'm gonna figure it out. And, a lot of people were telling me, like, oh, you're just another, what could have been. You're another has-been. Like, you're going to be another, like,
a lot of criticism.
Yeah, a lot of people were just, like, from my people that I knew. There's like, oh, you're just another what could have been. And because there was a lot of those at my school. Just because of funds, or just because of same thing, injuries, or just because they didn't have the grades.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be another one of those. I'm going to go out and finish what I started. And I had no idea how I was going to do it.
Man.
But, I kept working, and then I was working to try to finish out my senior year, at least.
Well, okay.
So we made it to regional finals, I think it was, for high school.
Wow, okay.
Which was in February.
Yeah.
And we were set to play that game, I think it was like a Tuesday. But I couldn't see my doctor till Wednesday. So the next day.
Man.
So I pushed everybody to try to get myself to be able to play. My PT, my athletic trainer, everybody said he's feeling good. And it was ultimately up to the doctor. And the doctor said, well, I can't let you play. Like, it's just, you're not at the mark I want you to be yet. And so we ended up losing that game. And I remember sitting there. I was like, the game wasn't even over. I was already crying. I was like, man, like, put me in.
Yeah, you could have. You feeling like you could have helped.
Yeah, and
you just weren't allowed to.
And the coach was just like, my coach from high school was just like, hey, like, I can't, like, I just can't, like, I'm taking care of you. And I was like, you know what, like, there's nothing left for me. Like, this was the last thing I wanted. And we ended up losing that game. And the next day, I show up to see my doctor. I probably hated him so much at the moment. And he's like, hey, you're cleared. And I was just like, oh
my, there's like no difference between the day before and today.
And he was just like, listen, he's like, just know, like, this isn't the end for you. Like, if you really believe college soccer is a thing for you, you keep going. I was like, yeah. I mean, at the time, I was heartbroken.
Yeah, like everything. At the time, you're like, okay, at the end of my high school career, did you have any highlight videos at the time?
No.
No highlight videos. You had like a verbal commitment to JU at the time. So you're thinking, all you have to do is just work, keep on getting better, and then you're gonna make it there, and then you're gonna ball out in college.
Yeah.
That's done. And then your high school season is about to end. You made it to regional playoffs, regional finals, and you feel you could play. You're cleared.
Yep.
Well, you can be cleared, and then you just weren't able to play at all.
Yeah. So that right there was all just like super tough.
Man.
But the one thing out of my senior night was my senior year is that my senior night, I wasn't supposed to play. I wasn't clear yet, and that was like a month before. But the very end, we were winning 7-0.
Yeah, okay.
The very last minute, one of my friends, he gets fouled in the box, right? And I'm just sitting there because, they let me start the game where I passed the ball and then I got subbed out, and it was fun. And I was like, well, at least I got to play in the game.
Yeah.
My friend gets fouled in the box, he's rolling around like crazy. He's like, I need a sub. And you can sub on a PK like that. So everybody was like, Alex, like, you need to get subbed in. And they subbed me in. And we were winning 7-0, and even though I had scored on this team like 5 times, like just in high school, it just seemed like it was the biggest moment because, like, I could have scored.
You could come, yeah. Like at that time, a month before, that means you were still recovering, right?
Yeah. I wasn't even nowhere near
being cleared, right? And then you went in there,
took the PK, scored it.
Wow.
We won 8-0. Yeah. And then it just felt like
it felt good.
It felt good,
right?
So then, like I said, fast forward back to, like, doctor clears me, this and that. So that spring, or not that spring, well, that last half of senior year from, like, February to May, man, I'm looking for every club team, trying to figure something out.
Yep.
I did play for a few club teams, but nothing really came out of it. And summer and that May came where I was graduating.
Yep.
And my friend, he committed to play at Daytona State. So the coach came. They had his signing at our school, and I talked to him for a bit. And he's like, hey, so what happened? I thought you were going to go to JU, this and that. Because he knew of me because of my friend. And he had come see us play high school and all that.
Oh, okay. So he knew of you,
right?
Yeah,
he knew of me. And then he told me, he's like, hey, like, if you ever, if you end up figuring things out, if you feel like you want to Juco's the route, give me a call. And I was like, oh. but like I was so set on like
playing JU, man.
Yeah, JU. So I was just like, you know what? I was pretty young when I graduated, I guess, like 17. So I had a year left of eligibility for like a club. So I went and joined this club called FKK in Orlando.
Okay.
They had a ECNL program.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, it's good.
And I knew the coach, same thing, because of my friend.
Yeah.
Miguel. You know, he had invited me to play club that last bit of senior year, and that's where the coach knew who I was. So I ended up joining that team, but I was in college already. So I was a college student playing club.
Yep. Which
was kind of weird. So what happened was I would go to school, and they would train every single day, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And at the time we played ECNL, so we either played at home, which was in Orlando, or we traveled. So there was weekends where we traveled. I think Saturday we would go to Alabama. Sunday we would be in Tennessee, and then we'd be back home on Monday. You know,
man. And you were living
in Deleon Springs, back at home. So like just the drive to Orlando was about an hour.
Yeah.
So I made that commute. So I would go to school. I would leave like at 8 a.m., 7 a.m. from my house, go to school, and then straight from school I would go to train.
Wow. How did you hear of this team?
They're a really big club, and I just knew of them. And like I said, I played a bit for them the end of my senior year, so I kind of just knew about them.
Yep.
And I just, I took a bet. It was an ECNL program. I was like, they said they would have a lot of film and stuff, so it's like I can have some film. I can have something to show at least, because I didn't have anything. And so I made that drive every single day, and it was tough because I was doing it on my own. People were like, "Why are you doing this? Like, just give up. Like, you're already in college. Like, dude, there's no point." And realistically, it was really hard, like, to do what I was doing.
Yep.
Like, the odds of me finding a team was going to be tough. So, I do that. I do really well because I just gave it my all.
Your all, yep.
And my coach from FKK, he's like, there's a director at FKK, and he's like, hey, where do you want to play? Like, I've never seen you around. Like, you're pretty good. Like, where do you want to play? I'm like, well, my goal is to play like a D1, but like, I've always wanted to play at UCF. Oh, I know the coach. He's like, I can get him to come out to our game. And I was just like, really? Like, just like that? He's like, yeah. He's like, but you better play good. So he really did get UCF to come out to one of our games.
No way.
Yeah, but he was looking at a couple of us.
It
wasn't just me.
Yeah.
So he came out to our game. Didn't have the best of games. He was here for half, and then he left.
One half?
Yeah.
Man.
And, but to be fair, I was just glad I got the chance for even be considered.
Yep.
I stayed in contact very shortly with him. It was short-lived, but I was like,
It gave you some bit of hope, right?
Yeah, some bit of hope. So I finished that season of, that first year of college. I spent it playing ECNL in the fall and the spring.
At 17, 18?
Yep. And so technically I'd finished my freshman year, but I still had years. I hadn't used any years of eligibility. So then the Daytona State coach, he's like, hey, I heard you're playing ECNL. How's that going? Let's keep in contact. I want you here next fall.
Wow.
And I was like, he's like, but I'm going to take you in as a walk-on. I don't have scholarship money for you. I'm like, that's all I need. I just need a chance.
Yeah.
Come into freshman year of Daytona State, fairly fit. Preseason, I remember I started all 3 preseason matches, but they just, nerves got to me, everything. I had really bad games, and just like that, I was out of the starting lineup.
Wow. And what position were you playing at the time? Winger. Okay.
Yeah, and just like that, I was out of the starting lineup. Yeah. And I didn't see the field till like halfway through the season again.
Man.
Yeah, it was tough. Like, a lot of people underestimate Juco, but it's just like, man, there's some talent there. There's like some raw talent. Just
what would you compare Juco to?
It's hard to compare it, but there is like a lot of like really good players. And there's just like, for example, we had a lot of guys go to D1. We had a lot of guys go to D2. We had a lot of guys go to NAIA. It's just like Juco was just like a really good route if you wanted to keep playing soccer.
Okay.
But it's not guaranteed.
Okay. And before, let's tell them what, for those who don't know what Juco is.
Oh, so Juco is just like junior college. It's a league where you can go play, and you can only play 2 years.
Okay.
So you can only play 2 years there, and then you have to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Either get out or you don't. Like, you either just continue studying, or you find a school. But yeah, so freshman year was really bad. I didn't play much at all, really. I think I got like, the most I played was those 3 preseason matches.
Yeah.
And
Do you think it's because you just weren't used to the physicality?
I think that was a bit of it. The physicality, just the difference of the game. It was different.
Yeah.
And for me, I was, club, it was difficult. Just transitioning for me, it was personally.
Yeah. Yep.
Just like the physicality too. I came in small kid, and I remember our preseason, we played like D2 teams. We played UNF. We played Florida Southern. We played some of these teams, and man, I do remember those preseason games just getting bullied, like just straight to the ground every time. And it wasn't fouls. They were just like way stronger than me. And I feel like that's a part of why I just wasn't able to get into a lineup anymore.
And to be fair, like I think we should make it clear that you're coming from playing ECNL.
Yeah.
ECNL, the guy, like, the most you do is just you practice 5 days a week, but you're playing against guys, man, that's like in the gym 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
Playing at that high level. So coming in initially, it's likely to happen.
Freshman year doesn't go as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I have my end of the year meeting. Coach tells me, he's like, hey, if you really want to play, like, something has to change. Because, like, you're just, you're there, but you're not. Yeah. You're just really inconsistent. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So there's a USL2 team opening up that summer. From my freshman year going to my sophomore year. Yep. And it was a USL2 team. Daytona, I forget the name, but it was Daytona. Just like Daytona Rush or something like that.
USL, man.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what USL is.
USL2 is just like, so I guess it goes MLS, USL Championship, USL1, USL2. Yeah. But USL2 is like where a lot of college players go for the summer.
For summer, yeah.
And so I go to try out because a lot of our guys went to try out, and I didn't make the team. I didn't make the first tryout. Okay. So coach was like, there's another tryout for anybody who wants to try out again. And I was like, you know what? Gonna go. Why not?
Man, the persistency.
Yeah.
Man.
I go again. I have a talk with the coach. Not a lot of people knows, but like the coach told me, he's like, hey, you're not making the team again. Man. But if you want, you can train. Okay. You can train with us. I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. And for me, I knew that was the start. Like, that's how everything starts. You just need a chance. Yeah. So then, I go training every day, and, it was tough. A bunch of D1 players, a bunch of D2 players. Man. And the level was really good soccer players. Mm-hmm. Man, it was really good level. But for me, at that time, also, we trained at like 9 a.m. So I was commuting, which it was a normal commute because I would commute to Daytona State. So it was, I would leave my house around 8. I would go train from 9 to about 11. And then I worked in New Smyrna at a car wash from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Oh, my God. Every day.
You had no breaks.
No breaks. So I would just get home and sleep. Yep. Repeat. And,
the whole summer.
The whole summer. I was that player that they would take whenever they had, like, they needed subs, but I wouldn't play. Yeah. But for me, that was a chance. So, it was like, Saturdays, for example, I would work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 4. Mm-hmm. And then from there, wherever our game was, I would race to Daytona to make it to our vans or bus, whatever it was, to make it to, say, if we go to Jacksonville to play. The game was at 7. I would work from like 9 to 4, like 9 to 2, head straight to Daytona onto the bus just to not play,
Just to be there, man.
Eventually, the coach was like, hey, you ready to play? He's like, I'm gonna play you.
You saw that.
You're gonna debut today, for example. And it was funny because I debuted. I only played 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. It was funny. Mm-hmm. But then that kind of was the start. I ended up getting a few more minutes, but the most I ever got was like 25 minutes. But for me, it was just getting ready. Yeah. For when I came back for my sophomore year.
Yep. And too, like, the coach was like, he told you that, like, you're not gonna make the team.
And
it was supposed to be just like a training, right? And then it turned up he's playing you.
Yeah, and man, I went to every training, never missed a practice.
Wow.
I was there every single day.
Yep.
And then come back to Daytona, and I just feel like a whole different person. I just feel like my confidence is out the roof. Like, I just feel ready.
Mm-hmm.
So come preseason, again, I'm within like the starters, and I tweak my groin. I'm out for like 2 weeks, kind of sets me back again.
Yep.
Try to get in the lineup again, but it was just like we're in season. Once season starts, it's really hard to break the starting lineup again.
Man.
So then, think about it. It's my sophomore year, midway through, and it's like the first quarter of the season's gone, and I don't have much to show.
Yeah.
And then I just keep working. We would train at 3 p.m., and then I would come back out, train at 6 p.m., just by myself with a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Just whoever wanted to come out. I trained, just waiting, and a couple of my friends were like, Alex, like, just give up. Like, there's not much left for us to do. Like, we're sophomores. Let's just let it ride out now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, like, if I end up not being able to find another team, I want it to be because I wasn't good enough, not because
you didn't try.
I didn't try hard enough. Midway through the season, I didn't expect to play because I wouldn't even get off the bench anymore. Midway through the season, one of our starter wingers gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And, our coach looks at me. He's like, Alex, our assistant coach, he was like, Alex, he's like, you're going to play. And the head coach was like, all right. He's like, Alex, you're going to play. Assistant coach comes up to me. He's like, listen, I know you've been working hard. I'm vouching for you. He's like, don't let me down. I was like, of course. And I wasn't expecting to play that day. It was our homecoming game, whatever.
Yep.
I ended up playing, one of the best games I've ever played.
What position?
Winger, left wing.
Left wing.
Played one of the best games I ever had. Didn't score, didn't give any assists, but I just played amazing.
You balled out.
From that game forward,
mm-hmm.
I became a starter.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was mid-season sophomore year.
Yep.
And I played about 90 minutes every game.
How many games did you guys have after that?
We only had like 10 left, which is still a good amount.
It's a good amount. Yep.
And, I just stayed in the starting lineup, and I started getting film. I started getting, showing people what I could do.
Yeah.
I'm starting. It was a big game. We go down 1-0. We go down 2-0. I hadn't scored all season. Gave an assist or two, I think. And then somebody throws the ball in. It was a long throw. Someone heads it off. Like, it bounced off a couple guys in the box. Mm-hmm. And I just was sitting at the back post. Ball comes to me. And I just shoot it with my left foot. And it was a goal.
Wow.
So I scored. And that was big, for me.
Yep.
We're down 2-1. And it's just a really tough game. We just never were able to come back. And that was the end of our season.
Wow.
So then I have my meeting with my coach, right? I'm still considered a walk-on, didn't have money. He tells me, man, he's like, you were good the last half of the game, like last half of the season. It just sucks that we weren't able to see
see that
more of you
before.
And he was just like, it's not for much. I know you only have one semester left, but I want to give you a full ride.
Wow.
He's like, I want to give you housing. I want to give you, scholarships, tuition, everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I just, you've worked really hard. You deserve that.
Yeah.
And so.
Man, yeah, that's.
Yeah. So it was sick. It felt really rewarding too because, like I said, I had a commute to Daytona State.
Yep.
So.
Now you just.
There was times where I would sleep in my car. Just because of like breaks in between classes. Yeah. I didn't have time to go home.
Man.
It was just like, sometimes we had training like for example, preseason we had training at 7, so we would leave the house like at 5:30, 6. And then we had another training, say like midday for preseason. We would sleep in our car, or me and my cousin, because we both were locals.
Wow.
So it was a lot of commuting. It was a lot of driving. It was a lot of back and forth. And like that for me, was a blessing, because like, man, like, I didn't give up, and this was like, fruits of my labor.
Yeah.
So I got to enjoy that last semester. And that last semester, I really was going to take the time to try to find schools.
Mm-hmm.
But that was COVID year, right? So that's when COVID started. So spring starts off good. I'm contacting coaches. I'm reaching out. Then COVID hits, and kind of the schools I had in contact with, it kind of just fell through just because everything just fell through. No one knew what was going to happen. So then COVID hit, and they're telling us we have to leave the school mid-year. And I was just like, man, this is tough because, like, it was tough already, but now it's like I don't even know if any schools are going to want to pick me up.
Yeah.
So I reached out to, I probably emailed like 100 schools, like D1, D2.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was thinking of.
Yep. And at that time, you had some highlights, right, from your previous games and practices.
Yeah, so I had some highlights.
Yeah.
And I reached out with everything I had.
Yeah.
I get only like 7 responses back. And that was tough, too, because I was like, the schools that did get back to me, most of them were like, hey, we don't have any money left. Hey, we're out of state. Hey, you won't start here. Or, hey, this and that. A lot of, like, buts and a lot of, like,
ifs and buts. And,
ifs and buts.
And declines, yeah.
But, like, towards the end, I wasn't really able to visit anymore, but I was able to fit in a few visits. But it was the 4 schools I mainly was in contact with was like an NAIA school, Weber International University, King University, which is a D2 in like North Tennessee, and then Francis Marion University, who was, I believe, in South Carolina.
Okay.
But at the time they were like a top 10 D2 school.
Mm-hmm.
And Stetson, who I got in contact with late summer.
Yeah, and that was like the only D1, right?
Yeah, only D1. I visited Weber. I wasn't able to visit Francis Marion or King because of COVID.
Yep.
But, it kind of went like this. Weber offered me the most, money-wise and opportunity-wise.
Mm-hmm.
King offered me a bit less money, but same thing, kind of like good opportunity to play. Francis Marion, they were better, one of better D2s, and they were like, hey, same thing. We can offer you a bit of money, not enough that like for a full ride.
Yeah.
But we don't guarantee you playing either. Like, we don't guarantee you like playing or anything like that. So it kind of, and then Stetson, I got in contact with Coach Emmett, and he was like, hey, listen, like, we don't have any money left because it's a month before.
Yeah.
Or like 2 months before we start season. You are local. You do live pretty close from home. Like, you're 15 minutes away from Stetson. If you'd like, you could live at home, and you can be considered like a walk-on. I know it's probably not at your best interest because you went from having a full ride to having no money. But if you want to play here, I can guarantee you that if you stick with it, like, we'll find money.
Mm-hmm.
But just this first season, you won't have
it's
any
kind of
money.
tough on them, UK, yeah.
I took a bet on it. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I want to go
D1.
D1.
You've been dreaming from D1 from the beginning.
I was like, if he's giving me a chance, I told him, Coach, I'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I think the thing that probably convinced him was like one of the phone calls we had. He's just like, kind of asking me like, what do I offer? And I was just like, listen, like, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be your strongest player. I'm not going to be your fastest player. Probably not your best player. But I'll promise you this. I'll work harder. I'll work harder than anyone. I'll give you everything I have.
Yep.
And he's like, all right, sure. We'll take a bet on you. So that summer, same thing. I didn't have any team to train with because it was COVID and stuff, COVID. So it was just me, my brother, this local coach. Her name's Nicole, amazing coach. And a couple of just local guys. We would train. So we would train at 8 a.m. So same thing. My schedule that summer looked like training from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the land.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back home, grabbing my stuff, going to work from 12 to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then going to the gym from straight out of work from 9 p.m. to probably 10:30 p.m.
Man, no breaks again. No
That
breaks
was
again.
every single day. But I was
Man.
determined to come in the best in shape I've ever been.
Yep.
Just to prove, like, to the coach, to the team that...
Just prove to everyone.
Just prove to everybody
Yep.
that I deserve to be here.
Mm-hmm.
That I come from a small town. I come from probably not the biggest, like, the best backgrounds. Like, some of these guys, you know, some of these guys have some crazy resumes. And, you know, they back it up. They're really good players. But I just wanted to prove that, like, you know, someone from a small town like me
Can still make it.
could bring a lot to offer to the table still. That fall semester I come in, and it was weird because of COVID pushed the season back to the spring. So I'm coming in as a junior, and that fall, usually when our season would be, was just a fall for training.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So we trained that whole fall, and I did fairly well. You know, I felt like I did really well. Like, I gave the team, you know, I was offering something to the team.
Yep.
Fall goes well. Now it's time for spring. Now it's time for our season. Well, a week before our season starts, we were training.
Can you explain the point system thing you guys would do?
So yeah, like, so our fall season, when I came in, we had this thing, like, this point system.
Yep.
Where, like, you would get points for, like, say if we played small-sided, if your team won, you would get, like, 3 points.
Yeah.
Or if we did a possession game and you won, you would get, like, 2 points, or just to keep it competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so a coach had told us, he's like, top 3 guys, you get a prize at the end. So that kind of motivated people to, like,
to
just
work,
bring it every day. Just bring it. Just work hard every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the point system kind of just showed, like, you know, just who just wanted to come in day in, day out and work.
Yeah, and work, yeah.
And then at the end, you know, at the end of the fall, when we tallied up all the points, I ended up getting third.
Out of how many guys?
Out of, like, I don't know, probably like 30-something guys.
Wow.
So, I mean,
That's big,
it didn't say I was going to start. It didn't say I was going to play. But it at least showed that, I was coming in, day out to just grind. Like, just put my head down and work.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that fall ended. The week before we were going to start the season.
Yep.
I broke my foot. I broke my 5th metatarsal. We were training. I go to plant my foot, and I just feel like my foot just broke. I don't know. It just felt weird. Just felt like my foot snapped, right? And I didn't believe it because all I did was get to the line, cut, and turn.
Yep.
And
which bone? Where? What?
It's like the outside of the pinky. It's like right here.
Man, it's like the same thing I had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like super common, and I didn't even know it was like a super common thing.
Yeah.
So then, like, you know, even then I got up, and my coach was like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, Yeah, I'm good." And even then I got up, and I kept trying to run.
So something with me, like, eventually I got up after the contact. It was hurting, but, you know, like, you get hit and then you can still play. But then after a while, like, you can't put weight on it, and then you just can't run.
Yeah, so, like, man, I kept trying to run, and they gave me a ball to pass it. And as soon as I made contact with the ball, I was like, man, dude, something's wrong.
Pain was, man.
So my coach is like, listen, if you can't, like, because you can't see it, so you don't know if
you don't
wrong.
know. You don't know,
It's just like, listen, if you can't keep going, just get off. I was like, man, something's really wrong. So I decided to walk about, like, half a mile to our athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm. You walked?
Yeah.
You walked on it?
Yeah, so, like, I got to a point where I was, like, not even walking on it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Just because I was like, man, like, something's definitely wrong.
Like, yeah.
I'm not just going to drop out like that. So I go in, and she's like, hey, like, what's up? And I'm like, I think I broke my foot. And she's like, oh, okay. So she's like, take off your shoe, this and that. Starts touching my foot. She's like, yeah, I think you broke it.
Yeah, man. Man.
So, you know.
It brings back memories.
Yeah, and, you know, same thing. I didn't believe it. Got my MRI, X-ray.
Yeah.
Showed I was broken. You know, coach came in, you know, whenever my athletic trainer would show me that it was broke, when we had found out when it was broken, he's like, he just gave me a pat on the back. He's like, just work on recovery, you know, like, you'll be fine. Just, you know, you'll be fine. And, you know, as soon as I stepped out the room, you know, I cried. I cried so much. And it just, because, like, it just reminded me of, like, man, my ACL, like, man.
Yeah.
I can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And even, too, like, when I had, you know, when I had signed to Stetson, you know, I cried, too. Just because it was, like, wow, like, you know, I never gave up. No one gave me a handout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here because of me.
Yep.
You know, people, I'm glad for the people who helped me, who reached out and who helped me train or help, vouch for me, but this was because of me. And, you know, I cried. Same thing. And like that whole time was like from when I tore my ACL to about now, it's just a lot of crying, a lot of just like a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
And like a lot of
emotion.
Yeah, a lot of emotion, man. Like a lot of highs, a lot of lows. But yeah, so I break my foot and I'm just, you know, as soon as I get surgery, I'm just ready to work.
Mm-hmm. I'm
in the weight room with my cast on, just doing upper body, just like working out.
Wow.
Just like I'm just in there working out. I'm just doing anything I can. Season ends. I didn't have a chance to play. It was just small timeline, like a very small timeline to recover and get fit. So spring ends, and that was the end of my junior year, just like that. Didn't even get to play.
Wow.
So now that summer, I decided not to play in a team, but I dedicated, you know, every morning, every day to training at Stetson. So I would lift at like 8 a.m.
Just in the summer?
Yeah, in the summer.
Wow.
Train at 8 a.m. I would go into the weight room at 8 a.m., finish my workout, and then train from like, you know, 10 to 12, 10 to 11, or like 9 to 11, and then go straight to work again. Because I was still every summer working at this car wash.
Who would you train with? Like just on your own?
On my own, or whoever really wanted to come out.
Yeah.
And I was in there every single day. I didn't miss a single day, I don't think. Even on my birthday, because my birthday is like July 5th. Even those days, I was in there in the morning. I was in there every day, the day before, the day after. And then, you know, my coach would come in because he's, you know, his office is upstairs.
Yeah.
He would just peek his head in and be like, "Hey, Fuentes, like, how you doing? Good. And he's like, "I see you working." I'm like, "Yep, you know, just working." And then, you know, I just worked really hard. And then one day before summer ends, he's just like, "Hey, Fuentes." And given at that time I didn't have any scholarship, I was still considered walk-on. And that was like another thing that was tough because when I came in, I had a tough talk with my parents. They're just like, we had to pay about 10 grand for that first year, and we don't have 10 grand lying around. And I told my dad, listen, he's like, Stetson offered me to play at their school. It's 10 grand. And he's like, we can't do that. We just can't. And so I got really upset because I was like, man, I did all the tough stuff. Now money's going to be another thing.
Yeah,
like
man.
Money's going to come in the way again. Like I did all the hard stuff, recovering, finding a school, doing it all. And I told my dad, you know what? I'm going to make it work. He's like, if you can make it work, we'll make it work. I had completely forgot about that. But while we were training, like while we were in season, I was also working whenever I had time. So for example, if we had a Sunday off, which was probably the only day we had off, I would go work with my dad. So from like 6 a.m. to like 4 p.m., like almost a whole day. And that's supposed to be my off day.
Man.
And then I also worked at Aldi in the afternoons. And for a whole year, coach had no idea I even worked.
Man.
But I would just, you know, train, go to classes, go to work. And my first semester, my GPA was pretty bad. Not bad, but it was like a 2.7. And coach had to talk with me. He's like, at the end of that junior year, he's like, Fuentes, let's be honest, like, you haven't brought anything to the team. He's like, you haven't played. Your GPA is low. You need to fix something or something's going to change. Basically saying, like, I get to fix it or I'm leaving. And, you know, all that stuff was going on. Broken foot, you know, all that stuff. And then that summer, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get right. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work up, get my money because I wasn't promised money for my senior year. And then the end of summer came and Coach Emmett was like, hey, I want to talk to you. And then, you know, he took me into his office. He's like, hey, you know, I've seen you've been working really hard. You've been in here day in, day out. You know, strength and conditioning coach tells me how hard you've been working. I want to offer you money. It's like money offered up. Money opened up. He's like, I want to give you this money. And I'm like, well, I haven't played or anything. He's like, no, but you've earned it. He's like, you've earned it. You've worked hard. You've earned it. I was like, okay, thank you. You know, I called my mom. I was just like, hey, Mom, we got money. And, you know,
wow.
My mom, you know, she started crying on the phone because she's like, I'm so happy for you. Like, you've earned this. Like, and of course I was emotional too, just because like it wasn't a full ride, but it was money that I didn't have to worry about as much anymore. I didn't have to work as much.
Yep.
That spring of my junior year, I had also broke my finger working with my dad.
Yeah.
So it was funny because I was almost clear for my foot and had just broke my finger. So I had a cast and I had crutches. I just looked like a mess.
Yeah.
And people were kind of like, come on, Fuentes, like, just give it up. Give it up. And I was like, no, I'm going to make senior my year. So then senior year comes around, I worked hard in summer. I come in fairly fit in the fall. Not a starter, but I was competing. I get to play in one of our first like games against Embry-Riddle.
Yeah, okay.
And I get in about 30 minutes. It was the first game I had played since I had broke my foot, which was about probably 7 months, 6 months.
Man.
I go in. I'm playing fairly well. They cross the ball. I go to try to shoot it, and I misstep, and I fall. And I bent my knee, and I was like, no way. And then
was it the same one?
Different, the other one.
Oh no.
So I go to like stretch and stuff. There's a minute left on the clock, and I'm just kind of walking around. Game finishes, and I'm just like really scared.
Yeah.
Everybody.
But you didn't tell nobody, right?
I didn't tell nobody. So I go home. It's still aching. I put ice on it. I'm like, okay, I'll feel better. I'll be fine. I wake up in the morning. Oh, I couldn't sleep the whole night. It just was aching so much. But I was like, man, it's probably just me. It's fine. Next morning, I wake up. I go to try to walk. I couldn't walk. I go to try to drive. I couldn't drive. Like, man. I go to try to I went to even try to warm up. I went to jump. My knee just gave out. And then coach was like, are you good? I'm like, no. I go to talk to my athletic trainer. She's like, what's wrong? I tell her what happened. I get MRIs. They say, people, my doctor was convinced it was my ACL. My athletic trainer thought it was like MCL. And then, my MRI comes back and it says my knee was, my ACL was partially torn and my MCL was partially torn. So now it's like, I'm like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah,
it was the first game I was back. And that first game, it just, I sometimes look back and laugh because it's like, man, it was just so unfortunate. Like, so unfortunate for things to happen the way it did. So now I'm back to recovering. I'm back to recovering, playing the whole recovery thing again. And it's getting tiring. And so I missed out that whole fall season of my senior year.
Did you get your red shirt? Or you couldn't, right? Because you played already?
I couldn't because I had played. And so at the end of fall, I had my meeting with coach, same thing. Hey, you have your COVID year. You can come back in the fall if you'd like. Oh. But that's completely up to you. He's like, I don't promise you playing time. I don't promise you anything. I do promise that if you come back your last season, I'll pay for it all. You've earned that.
No. Yeah. Full ride last year.
Yeah. So this semester it's full. Academics, soccer, it's full this semester.
Wow, yeah.
And so, I'm recovering and, I just kept working hard, pushing myself. And it just seemed like every time I came back, I would tweak it, be out for a week, came back. I got to a point where spring started, and my coach came up to me. She's like, hey, like, I don't like seeing you like this. Like, man, you're, like, constantly hurt. Like, something's not okay. Like, I think you really need to get, like, yourself, like, checked out because it's just, you're just hurt all the time. Yeah. Like, something's not okay. Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And he told me, he's like, listen, I promise to keep your scholarship if you want to be a team manager or something like that. I'm fine with that. It's like, I just, you've earned the right to be here. I just, if you're tired of coming back, like, I understand.
Man, what a guy, man.
I'm fine with still having you here. And I was like, and I was really, I appreciate that a lot. Because other schools, they'd be like, hey, man, you're not working out, get out of here.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Emmett for that, man.
Yeah, no, that was big time. Yeah. I tell him, Coach, thank you, but no thank you. Like, I'm going to keep working. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to keep working. He's like, all right. He's like, but just know if that's what you want to decide to do, I'm all for it. And I was just like, but my focus changed a little bit more as like getting my body right, then working, like to really
play. Get on the field again.
Yeah. So I really took that whole spring semester of my senior year.
Yep.
This past spring to really get my body right. I got in a spring match. I got an assist. It was pretty cool. I was able to play like that last spring match, which was awesome. Summer comes around, and I started doing an internship. And same thing, same routine. I would train at, I think, same thing, 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. I would race over to my internship from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And then from there, I would go to work.
Man.
And
what were you interning?
I was interning at a physical therapy place because physical therapy is what I want to do in the future. So I was interning there every day from 10 to 4 or 10 to 6, whatever. It was always 10 to something, but always earliest 4, latest 6. And I was training every morning from like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. till however close I could get to 10 a.m. And I would go off to work. It wasn't every day, but it was like every other day I would go work. And the days that I didn't, I would hit the gym.
Yep.
So it's just, again, just grinding, hoping to just get ready. So come this semester, I felt as best as my body has ever felt in a long time.
Wow.
I come in kind of fit, not as fit as I,
wanted to be, right?
But I came in,
didn't
have the best start. Just breaking to make the travel roster, like just having a lot of catch up to do.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I'm a senior and I'm expected, to play a bigger role.
Yep.
But it just seemed like I was just always like in the bottom half, just trying to like break at least the travel roster.
Yeah.
Because we only travel 22, but we have like 34. And to a lot of guys, making the travel roster was just easy. It was just like
it was nothing.
It was just they're always making it.
Yeah.
But like to me, to make the travel roster, it was really important to me. Because it was just a step in the right direction. The season plays out. I still don't get too much playing time. Don't really get to pick up a rhythm. And Coach Emmett tells me, he's like, again, you've been working really hard. He's like, senior days, senior night's coming. I want you to start and I want you to play.
Oh yeah, I remember that game. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was such a amazing night because everybody's like happy for me to be able to like get some minutes, be able to get the start, and like right before I'm gonna.
You're playing good, man.
Yeah, and right before I go into play, Ojak, who was on here a while ago, he comes over, he gives me the captain band, and he's like, I want you to put on the captain band. I'm just like, no, like I can't, I can't take this. And he's like, no, really. He's like, I want you to. And I'm like, I only want it if the team, thinks I should wear it. Because I'm not a captain on the team. Like, he's like, no. He's like, we've all talked about it. You've earned it. We respect you for it.
Wow.
Like, just take it. So, I took it. And I started the game. Played only about 15, 20 minutes. But it felt good. It really felt like a good night. I was able to like play after everything that happened. I come off, I go off to go to the bench and everybody's just like, just happy for me.
Yeah.
Which felt good because I felt like I had earned the respect of my team and, my coach. After that, we only had like 2 weeks left of regular season.
Yep.
The next week we're training, trying to see who's making the roster for playoffs and stuff. And we have one last regular season game. And then I tweaked my quad and I kind of like strained it, so I was out for about a week. So I was like, man, my season's done because that's it. But I was only out for a week, but it was at a very crucial time.
Yeah, very crucial time.
Yeah. So then I get cleared to train the day before FGCU. Wow. I was like, man, I'm not gonna be able to like make the like any time, like any playing time, just because it's like I haven't really been able to play, and I've been off for a week. So that day of FGCU in the morning, we had our walkthrough at 10 a.m. And then I asked one of the coaches, hey, I want to stay and train. And he's like, train? Why? Like, we have a game. He's like, well, ask anybody else if they want to come out. No one else wanted to come out. So I trained really hard that morning.
By yourself?
Mm-hmm. With the coach.
Oh, the coach, yeah.
I go into the locker room, I run into Coach Emme. He's like, hey, so how you feeling? I'm like, good. He's like, I'm thinking about playing you a bit towards the end, depending on how the game goes, I was like, wow, yeah, I'm feeling good. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, feeling 100%. He's like, you didn't train too hard? I'm like, no, but, I was gassed.
Yeah.
I had just trained really hard because I was trying to push for that last playoff spot.
Yep. And were you really feeling 100%?
No, not at all.
I knew it, bro.
And, he asked me, he's like, how are you feeling? Good? And I was like, 100%. But I was feeling nowhere near 100.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, man, this is my last chance to really, make something of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then late in the night, we go to play, we had an amazing game that night. Man, we got 4 goals in like the first 5-10 minutes, which is insane.
Yep.
And I was like, man, I think I'm really gonna get to play this game. So then, he tells me to warm up towards the end of the mid second half. I'm like, man, I think I'm gonna go in. And then like last 15 minutes, he's like, all right. He's like, Fuentes, come up. He's like, go in. We're up 5-1 or 5-1, I think it was. He's like, just go out. Just play. And to be fair, like I got a few touches, did fairly good. Was playing decently well for just the time I had been on the field.
I wasn't able to make that game, but Archie told me like you were playing good.
Yeah. And the other team was down, so maybe that's part of it too. But the game's about to end. Steele. They give him a ball. He makes a really good cut in the box, and he gets fouled, right? And it's a PK. I didn't think too much of it. I was like, well, Steele's going to take the PK.
Yeah.
And then, I look over, and Andres Colin, he grabs the ball, and he gives it to me. He's like, here, you're going to take the PK. I'm like, nah, it's Steele's. And he's just like, no, you're going to take it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you're going to take it right now. I'm like, okay. Got it.
And what wasn't like Coach Emmett like yelling, Fuentes, Fuentes.
And then, I didn't know of it at the moment, but like the whole team told me, he's like, man, Coach Emmett got up.
Yeah,
and just was running down the line, just saying, Fuentes, take the PK.
Yeah.
Fuentes takes the PK, and the whole team's yelling, when Fuentes. And Steele, he's like, yeah, bro, take it. So I go to take it, right? And I'm just standing there. I'm like, man.
You was probably nervous, man.
Yeah, I was like really nervous. And I remember it's like, it's a PK. Like, I've done this a million times. Like, I just got to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at the keeper, and there's like, I look down to the left post, and I'm like, if I keep looking to the left, he's going to think I'm going left.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm hoping he bites it. And so when I go to take it, I shoot it, and I go right. But I was looking left the whole time, so he dove left. And I was like, oof, I'm so glad he did. I scored the PK, and it was just an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
like, the whole team's just like running down.
Wow.
Everybody's just like so happy, and man, it was just crazy because like, to me, it just really showed like the respect I earned from my team and my coaches, because like, it just felt like I was super happy to have scored that PK, but it just felt like everyone else was just as happy.
Yep. They understood, man. They understood.
Yeah, they understood. Like, it's taken a lot for me to just even get a few minutes on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's because I was a bad player. It's just because I was super unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
That happens. Amazing night. We ended up beating FGCU like 6-2 that day. And then we, keep training for a week for playoffs. And then coach is like, gonna announce like our travel roster.
Yeah.
And then, you see all the names, and at the very bottom, he was taking 22. He's at the very bottom, 22, Alex Fuentes. I was like, oh.
Wow, man. So you made it.
Yeah, so
and
it was nice.
it's not only just like the travel roster for one game. It was a roster for the tournament.
The tournament,
the tournament, yeah.
So I was like, a bit of it was like, well, maybe he, it's my senior year. He wants to, have me included. But it was like, a bit of it, I feel like, was he trusted that if I was to go in, that I would leave it all on the field.
Yep. And mind you, man, like Stetson, they've been fighting to reach far in the playoffs. So he would have he wanted to choose his best 22.
Yeah.
And the fact that you made that, it says a lot.
Yeah, so, I was really happy that I was able to travel with the boys, and it's just upsetting the way that the season ended.
Yeah.
Because,
Unfortunate.
we were...
You guys were on track to, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking you guys would either make it to the final or win it all. You guys were on fire this season.
Yeah, so really good season, but it came down to a PK shootout that, just didn't go our way.
Yeah.
It's soccer, it happens.
Yeah.
Just a really unfortunate way to have gone out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been about 2 weeks now since the season ended,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of just taken this time to kind of just recollect, like, everything that I had gone through to get where I was. And,
mm-hmm.
Even though it wasn't what I wanted to get out of it, it just ended up being a lot more than, what I could have expected. Like,
Yeah.
I would have never thought that after tearing my ACL, I was going to go still D1.
Yeah.
Even though it went from going to college, playing ECNL, then going to Juco, and then going to Division 1. Like,
yeah.
And, like, if someone told me, like, when I tore my ACL, you're going to go to D1, but you have to do all this. Like, you're going to break your foot. You're going to partially tear your ACL, MCL. You're going to break your finger. And on top of that, you're going to have to work and study and train every summer like it's your last. Like, I would do it all over again.
Wow.
Just because that's just how my,
your journey was supposed to play out.
I just figured, like, and it's kind of cool because now, like, say I can go back and, like, these guys always joke around. They're like, oh, the Legend of DeLeon Springs type stuff.
Mm-hmm. I remember one time I was with Archie, and then he was just giving me like a brief, like, about you, and then he was just saying like you're the hometown hero, man.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, I know the guys just, like, joke around about it, but, like, it's like, for me it does mean a lot.
It does,
like,
man.
For me it kind of like, part of the reason I kept going is to show myself that I could do whatever I want to do, like, whatever I put my mind to, show my family, show my siblings,
show your friends, show
the community that, like, if I could tear my ACL and make it to D1, you guys can too. If I can make it through so many injuries, you guys can too. Like, just showing the community, like, man, like, we have the talent. It's gonna be a bit harder because of the resources, because of there's lack of resources, funds, situations. But just know, if you really want it, you can get it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping I inspired, encourage some of the guys that are coming up to just be like, I can do it too.
Yep.
And to really push and to really show, that our city, our town has some talent, has something,
talent, has potential. Yeah, because even when I was playing Sunday League, and I am playing Sunday League, I would just, like, everyone just knows Fuentes.
Yeah.
They like Fuentes, and I just didn't understand it. And then it's when I had that talk with Archie, and, and Archie just told me about you. I'm like, man, I gotta get this kind of podcast. I gotta get you to share your journey and to share your experience to inspire people. Because it's like, man, if it was me, man, like, the only big injury I had, I just broke my foot, and it came to the fact that I didn't have the funds to go to play in England. The opportunity I had, it was short because I couldn't, manage to pay all that pounds to play. And the fact that you just keep on pushing, I think that's like very inspirational.
Yeah, and, like, it's just been super, super tough, but such a great experience as well. Man, I honestly would never had came to Stetson if it wasn't for soccer, just because financially it does not make sense.
Yeah,
it's very hard. It's very expensive.
Man. Yeah,
personally, I don't have the funds to do it. Thanks to soccer, I was able to have the opportunity to come to Stetson and make some friends that'll last a lifetime.
Yeah,
make memories that last forever, and just the opportunities I've been able to receive at Stetson is just incredible. But at the same time, it's just like it's just really grateful for all the ups and downs, because now I appreciate everything. Like, I appreciate the moments, I appreciate the opportunities, I appreciate when a person reaches their hand out to me, because not everybody has to help.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really happy for the people who did help me out. Like, one of my best friends, his name's like Gerardo Vargas. He was just one of the guys that from the day I tore my ACL, he was just holding my hand the whole time, kind of like, I believe in you. I believe in you. And there was times where, you know, I'd be like, why? I don't believe in myself. He's like, I believe in you. I know you. Man, and to this day, he's he's one of my best friends. And, you know, we're still super tight, but he's just like, you know, the other day, it's just like, he came to my senior night, and it was just like a full circle. He's like, I knew you were going to be here. Like, I knew you would get here. And it was just like, you know, really
touching, man.
Yeah, really touching, just because, like, man, he was there, like, when no one else was there.
Yeah, he believed in you when you didn't
exactly,
believe in
which
yourself.
was crazy. It was just crazy. So, man, I love that guy. But, you know, shout out to, like, all the coaches, like Coach Alan Mandel, you know, Coach Nicole, like, all the people who, like, you know,
who helped you make it this far,
who
man.
really, you know, took a chance on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, still believed in me when, you know, not a lot of people did. And
is there any advice that you would like to give to these aspiring athletes that are probably going through the same situation as you, or even guys that just want to make it to the next level?
Yeah, I would just say it's tough. It's gonna ask a lot of you. It's gonna ask for you to be strong. It's gonna ask for you to. You're gonna lose a lot, and when you win, it's going to be very few times, but just know that the losses are there for a reason. The losses are there to make you stronger. The losses are there to make you smarter. And I just feel like don't look at losses so much as losses, but more as lessons as to how you can make things better.
Yep.
So I think that's the biggest takeaway. And I think another thing too, it's like I saw this like TikTok one time, and it was just like some guy, and it was like, you can work as hard as you want and still lose.
Mm-hmm.
But in the other way also, it's like, as long as you never give up, you're always in the race. But the second you give up, you're done. You're just completely done.
Yep.
So I think that's something I live by, where it's like, as long as I keep going, if I'm in a, like, for example, if I'm in a race and I lose a leg and I just keep going, you know, eventually I'll finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of just what I live by. Just keep going. And even when I shouldn't keep going, I still keep going.
Well, man, it was so good having you in the podcast, man. I thank God I did, because I didn't know about your full story, and to really dive into it, it was like really touching and really inspiring. So I really thank you for coming on the podcast, man, and I hope to have you on some other time.
Yeah, of course.
And I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Yeah.
And just keep grinding, bro.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. This was, you know, great experience, really great. And, you know, shout out to you for doing what you do. This is really cool how you get to get everybody's story that no one really ever knows about.
Yeah.
And to kind of just put it together, it's just really awesome. So, bro, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, it's amazing.
Thank you so much. And if you like this episode, make sure to like the video, comment what you think about it, and share it if you like it. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Stay tuned.